us to do things in a way that makes him happy. So we've been talking about that, and today we're going to talk about something that I'm kind of excited you get to join us for. We're talking about how Jesus is Lord of our lives, and he's Lord of the gifts we have in our lives. So before we get into that, and this is not just for the kids, this is for everyone in the room, turn to somebody next to you and exchange. One of you speak, and the other one listen, and then back and forth. What's the best gift, one of the best gifts you've ever received in your life? One of the gifts that stands out in your mind. Go, everyone, not just kids, everyone in the room. Find somebody and exchange. What's the best gift you've ever received? If you're sitting with nobody, I guess you could just yell it at me, Ron. Oh, I have to say one? If I start talking, everyone will stop talking. That's the best gift you've ever received. All right, we'll do it this way first. Show of hands, who has ever received a gift before in their life? Okay, this is good. I like doing things like that. It lets me see if you're awake, because that's one that everyone raises a hand for, you know. What kind of stuff did you guys talk about? Was it like a material gift, like something you received, like I don't know, socks, toys? Maybe it was a trip. What kind of things did you guys talk about? Family, yeah. Yeah, gift's a broad word, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, family, yeah. Sally? Jesus. All right, who said Jesus? Okay, for the rest of y'all, we'll do an altar call at the end of the service. So if you haven't received the gift of Jesus yet. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, anyone else? Anything just kind of just fun or anything that sticks out? Nice. For like a car? Nice. A wife? Yeah. Micah. A puppy. Ooh, yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. I'm glad Pastor Bree's not here to hear that. She's been bugging me for a dog. So we've all received gifts before. Here's what's kind of interesting about a lot of the things that come to mind. We talk about gifts. When you receive a gift, who is it for? I'm not trying to trick you. Someone gives you a gift, it's for you, right? It's for you. It belongs to you. If I were to wrap up a present in like decorative wrapping paper, put a little ribbon on it, I'd probably have to buy one of the ones with the tape because I probably can't tie one. And I'd put your name on it, right? And I'd give it to you. It belongs to you. You can do whatever you want with it. Now, some gifts come with a responsibility. A puppy's a great example. Because there's a responsibility there, isn't there? Some of the other stuff, too, like family, those things. I guess the responsibility with a bumper is don't get into an accident, need another bumper. But for the most part, when we get a gift, it's just ours. We can do whatever we want with it. But if we're talking about bringing our whole life under the lordship of Jesus, if we want Jesus to be the boss of everything we do and everything we have and who we are, then those gifts, even if we think they have our name on the tag, they don't really belong to us. They belong to Jesus. Because if he's Lord of everything, that makes him Lord of the things that I want to say are mine. And when we first got married, Bree's not here to scowl at me when I say this, so because I try not to tell stories about her and about our marriage. But man, when we first got married, the language of that's my car, back and forth. Getting used to the fact that we both had two cars now. We're married, we share them. It would be like, oh, don't you scuff my car? Or like, no, we're going to put gas in my car. And we finally are like, no, they're our cars. We have the family cars. But that part of us that's like, this is mine. Gifts are really tricky in that way. Well, we're in a story today. Jesus teaches with a lot of stories, and the one he's teaching with today is about these servants who are given something from their master, and they are supposed to do well with it, to use it well. Sometimes this is called the story of the talents. In the NIV, it says bags of gold, which I think is kind of a cool visual image. So we're going to put the scripture on the screen. I'm going to read it for us this morning. This is Matthew 25, starting with verse 14. Again, it will be like a man going on a journey who calls his servants and entrusted his wealth to them. To one he gave 5 bags of gold, to another 2 bags, and to another 1 bag, each according to their ability. Then the master went on his journey. The man who had received 5 bags of gold went at once and put his money to work and gained 5 bags more. So also the one with 2 bags of gold gained 2 more. But the man who'd received 1 bag went off, dug a hole in the ground, and hid his master's money. After a long time, the master of those servants returned and settled accounts with them. The man who had received 5 bags of gold brought the other 5. Master, he said, you entrusted me with 5 bags of gold. See, I've gained 5 more. His master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. Then the man with 2 bags of gold also came. Master, he said, you entrusted me with 2 bags of gold. See, I've gained 2 more. His master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. Then the man who'd received 1 bag of gold came. Master, he said, I knew that you are a hard man, harvesting where you've not sown and gathering where you have not scattered seed. So I was afraid, and I went out and I hid your gold in the ground. See, here is what belongs to you. His master replied, you wicked, lazy servant. You knew that I harvested where I have not sown and gather where I have not scattered seed. Well, then you should have put my money on deposit with the bankers, so that when I returned, I would have received it back with interest. So take the bag of gold from him and give it to the one who has 10 bags. For whoever has will be given more, they will have an abundance. Whoever does not have, even what they have will be taken from them. And throw that worthless servant outside into the darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. The word of the Lord for us this morning. Thanks be to God. Would you pray with me? God, as we read this story, we want to know more about who you are and what that means for us as we live with you as Lord of our life. We want to follow you, Jesus, instead of other things. So would you help us to know how to follow you better and how to follow you more as we spend this time together? We pray in your name. Amen. Amen. This is one of those stories that can be kind of tricky. One of the things that I jumped immediately to mind as I started preparing for this week was this idea of gifts. Because really at the center of this story, there are guys who've been given what seems like a gift, a chance to serve and to be responsible. They've been given quite a bit of responsibility. I don't know the last time someone gave you 5 bags of gold. That's probably quite a bit. I didn't do the conversion on how much money that would be today, but it's quite a bit. And for someone who's a servant, it would be very tempting to run off with this gold. There's probably more money than they've ever seen before. There's a couple of things that stand out in this story that I want to dive into as we continue this morning. The first thing, all of these servants are given something. Every single one of them is given something. And it says in the story that it was according to their abilities. So if in this story, I believe the master represents God. So this is kind of like the way Jesus interacts with us. So as Jesus sees all of our abilities, he gives all of us a gift. Every single one of us. I think before we even say anything else, that's so important. Because many of us look around and we think we might be the only person in the whole world who doesn't have some sort of gift or something special about them or something to offer. A lot of us, even those of us who other people may go, oh, that person's so talented. When we look in the mirror, sometimes we really don't think we have much to offer. We think that we're kind of just a dud compared to other people. But the first thing this story shows us is that Jesus gives a gift to every single one of us, some sort of ability or something for us to use in Jesus' name, something for us to do, something that he offers to us that we can offer to other people. So these gifts aren't from us. This is really tough too. For a lot of us, we feel like we're the reason we have some sort of gift or talent. So if you were an athlete, or if you were an athlete when you were younger, people may have just thought, oh, they're really quick, they're strong, they're agile. It has nothing to do with their hard work. They're just built different. They just happen to be good at this thing. And that is somewhat true. It's a gift from God. It's a gift from Jesus to us. Everything, whether it's the ability to speak well, whether we're good with our hands like sewing or knitting, or we're good at engineering or coming up with a way to solve a problem, a talent like playing an instrument, even what you do at work or the things you learn at school. Some of us are better at different subjects than other people. Who was good at math growing up? Who was good at English? Who actually enjoyed English class? Right? Now, there was only a couple of you I can see that had a hand up for both of those. Some of us are good at science or history. That's one of the things that's hard about school is you got to study everything, even though you don't feel you're good at everything. But God has given all of us some sort of gift, some sort of talent or ability. One of the things that I think is really important is so often we think that we have nothing to offer. That if we were to serve God, we just kind of sit around and we wouldn't really be able to be a part of what God's doing. But this story right from the beginning shows us that Jesus gives all of us something that we have to use for the sake of Jesus and the sake of the kingdom, for what God wants. Another thing that's really important is that we're all given a gift based on our ability. So what can happen sometimes is we look at ourselves and we go, I don't really have a lot to offer. We may compare ourselves to someone else and say, they're really smart. I'm kind of barely getting by. I don't understand some of these things about the Bible, or I don't understand some of these things about how to be friends with other people and kind of connect to other people. And usually what we do is we look at someone else who has what we think a lot more to offer. And then we start to think, if I have so little to offer, maybe I just won't do anything. But can I say that one of the things we see in this story is that Jesus gives us a gift based on our ability, meaning all of us have something to offer. So we may think that, we actually, in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really matter if I'm a part of what God's doing. I don't bring as much to the table as someone else. But here, Jesus has chosen what it is you bring to the table. And you're accountable for it, even if it feels like it's very little. It still belongs to God. Our gifts aren't our own. They actually belong to Jesus. So some of these men understand this. In the story, two of the servants take what they've been given and they do a good job with it. They go and they're wise with it, they're intentional, and they're able to multiply it. And when their master comes back, he says, well done, good and faithful servant. You've been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share in my happiness. So this is a God who wants us to be a part of what he's doing. He wants us to be a part of his plan for the world. And this is difficult, I think. I think for a lot of us, we would rather wait for Jesus to come back and for him to do everything rather than be a part of what he's doing right now. Bless you. But what we see in this story is someone who does exactly that, who thinks, I'm just going to wait for Jesus to come back. I'm just going to make sure I don't lose what he's given me. I know just a little bit about the faith or a little bit about how to be a part of what God's doing. I'm just going to make sure I don't lose that, and I'll wait for Jesus to come back. But then when Jesus comes back, he's frustrated. That's something that frustrates the master in the story. Because the master knew the ability of this servant. He knew that he could handle one bag of gold. It says in the story, based on his abilities, because Jesus knows we're able to handle the gifts he's given us. He's sure of that already. So when he comes back and he sees, he goes, what have you done with what I've given you? And we say, well, I didn't do anything. I was worried it wouldn't work out. Jesus looks at us and says, I knew it would work out. I trusted you with this. And it wasn't just for your own good, it was for other people. There was a purpose. And if you won't be a part of the purpose, then that gift might end up going to someone else. Those who've been faithful with a few things will be given more. This is kind of what growing up is like. I remember when I first started school, we were homeschooled, and my mom would have to sit there at the table with me and make me do the schoolwork. And then eventually, it was to the point, while I was still homeschooled, that I would do it, and she would just come and check in. And then by high school, I decided I was going to go to public school, and she trusted me to, get on the bus, get in the car, go to school, and just take care of it. She was able to trust me because I'd been faithful as I had grown up. This is true in the church. At my last church, I was a youth pastor, and there was a few opportunities where I'd get to do something like this. I'd get to preach in front of everybody, in front of the adults. And I had done that. I'd done it well enough, I guess, that they decided to have me do it again. And then by the time I came here, I'd had a little bit of experience with that. Now you guys are stuck listening to me almost every week of the year. But this is part of growing. I think sometimes we look around the room and we think that everyone was born with the gifts they have and they just are special in some way, and we must not be. And we're just kind of stuck, and we'll never amount to anything more than what we are right now. But one of the beautiful parts of this story is that we can grow over time. That God trusts us to take the gifts we've been given and to grow in those gifts over time. And that's really important. That's really important. Because if our gifts belong to Jesus, and He's Lord even of our gifts, then that means He is Lord over what we're doing to grow those gifts. Let me say that again. If Jesus is Lord of our gifts, of what we have, of our abilities, then that means He's Lord over what we do to grow those gifts. So this is true of, just to use one more example from my life, and I'll try to talk about myself a little less. At a young age, I was given an opportunity to have a speaking role in a children's play at my church. And then over time, even though it was hard and it's scary, and I can't stand being in front of a room full of people, I get so nervous, I just felt like I had to keep doing that. And I ended up doing the drama ministry, and then in college I was on an improv comedy team, and I just started to get used to being in front of a room full of people. And then eventually your body gets used to the chemicals and the way you feel when you're in a room full of people. But I could have just stopped when I was younger. It was very scary. I had a moment when I was 14. I took a script that I'd done all by myself. It was written, and then I'd prepared to present it, and I performed it. And it's called a monologue. It's just one person. And I'd done a great job at the district competition for it. And then I went to the regional competition. And I was so nervous about messing it up that I hadn't prepared. I would get so anxious. I'd sit down with my script, and I'd gotten a very good score at district, and I thought I had to do even better, or I would disappoint everybody. So I would sit down with my script, and I would get so nervous I wouldn't even practice. So for 3 months, I didn't rehearse at all. And I got there to the competition to present my script, and I broke down sobbing outside of the building, withdrew my name, and never presented it. And then I vowed in my heart to never speak to a crowd on a stage by myself ever again. That's true. My church asked me to present that same script, that same monologue at a youth Sunday we did, and I said no. They were like, it's perfect for the message, and I just said no. I was like, I'll never be on stage alone again. But I had not done well with my gift in that few-month period. I hadn't used it and prepared it, and I missed an opportunity to give back to God what He'd given to me. Thankfully, God did a work in my heart and eventually got me not over the fear, but used to the fear of public speaking. But what are we doing with our gifts is an important question. Because we're responsible for caring for them and for growing them over time. Improving, even though it's a gift from God, stewarding it well, using it well, being faithful with it, is something that God has given us the task of doing. That's why the master in the story gives the bags of gold and then goes away and trusts them to us to use them. And this is really important. Because I believe there's nothing in this world that God has wired us to do that God can't use for his purposes. Now you may think, oh, but Pastor, the thing I'm good at's really kind of, I don't know how God could use it. I'm good at drawing. Well, what's God gonna do with that? I'm not gonna draw for a living. I've got a job or I've got school. How could God use drawing? I have some friends who make some really amazing Christian art. I have one friend who they call them icons. It's like a picture of some biblical story, and they hand draw it, and everything is really intentionally chosen. And they draw one a day, and they post it online with a little story about what it is. They use drawing every single day to teach about Jesus. But they've been drawing their whole life. They continued to grow that gift. You couldn't stop her from drawing even if you tried. And she finally is like, I'm going to use it for Jesus. For some of us, we're very good at making money. I had a friend in college named Noah. I love Noah. He's got a baby on the way. I got to be in his wedding. He's a great guy. And he told me his favorite thing to do is tithe. It's his favorite thing to do. And he does it twice a year. He's big into investments, yes. So every 6 months he tithes. He loves it. It's his favorite Sunday of the year because he's quite the entrepreneur. He's very good at business and making money. So he gives that gift back to the Lord very faithfully. I have a friend who was the best man at my wedding, and he makes videos for a living. He does cinematography. His older brother also does that, and he actually does it at our Nazarene headquarters. So when we were at General Assembly, which is all the Nazarenes from around the world, all the pastors meet in Indianapolis for like a week, he texted me and said, hey, every video that's got animations, moving pieces, my brother did that. So that all these pastors from around the world, it's being interpreted into like 40 different languages as we sit there and worship. And there's videos to get us to talk about what matters and to connect to the sermons. And someone was using their video editing skills to provide that. If you know anything about technology, oh man, there's a lot of places in the church for you to use that. But just in the world, I've got problems with my laptop, and I've asked some friends who are tech savvy, and they can't figure it out. There's always somebody who needs help with people who kind of can do some techie stuff. We still live in buildings and houses, so if you're good with electricity, plumbing, any of that, people still have to eat. I got to tell you, some of the most amazing experiences I've had in the church had to do with someone had prepared food for me or for a group of people. Or some of the opportunities that Bree brings into our family where she loves to prepare meals for other people and take them over to their house. Some of you guys did that to us 2 summers ago. Our first summer here, Bree and I got COVID. We were out for a week, really sick, and a bunch of you guys brought us meals. Even cooking food is a gift that God gives us to steward. And I have to tell you, some of y'all in this church have stewarded it really well. Some of you have gotten so good at preparing food. It's just delightful. Some of these go without saying, and the scripture calls them the visible gifts. Things like singing or playing instruments. Things like public speaking, the things where you get to be under the lights for a little bit. But oh my goodness, remembering names, what a gift. People, you greeters who are the first face when new people come here, it's a big deal giving that gift. And think of that in the world. We maybe expect it when we come to church that someone will smile at us. But isn't it so surprising when you're polite, just at Meijer or Kroger's, you hold the door for someone, you read the name tag off of the waitress at the restaurant? Just being kind is a gift, and we can grow in our kindness. This is kind of terrifying. Because of the internet, we all have a platform. That's a gift. That's a scary gift. Many of us bury that platform. We don't use it at all. And I think for the sake of our soul, for many of us, that's a really good thing. To not go online too much is a good, faithful thing. For some of us, we're pretty gifted at the way we post. And we have some friends who need encouragement. We're able to find the right things to share or the right memes that kind of uplift people's spirit. That's a gift we can steward. Sometimes it's really weird stuff that you would never think God could use. One of the privileges of being a youth pastor was when a new video game would come out and the teens would be talking about it, I knew what they were talking about because when I was younger, I played video games all the time. Even something as weird as liking certain TV shows, or maybe you like sports or you're very good at DIY. I guarantee you there's people who need to know Jesus loves them, who share that hobby. I guarantee it. I can promise you that there's someone whose life you can bless and impact for the better with the way that you're wired up. We talked last week about how our time is part of this, so I'll just make a point to say that again. Even our time. Maybe you're like, I don't have a lot to offer, but I've got a lot of free time. Lord, I guarantee there's something the Lord could do with that. Guarantee. There's things in our church we could do with. If all you've got is free time, that we got places for you. We'll train you, we'll teach you, we'll get you set up to serve somewhere. But because God knows we can handle the gifts, by the power of his Holy Spirit, he knows that he can assign our gifts based on our ability. And that if we're faithful, he will give us even more. That makes it really simple for us when we ask the question, where do I start? Where do I start? I look around, this other guy seems like he's got 5 bags of gold. I'll never catch up. She seems really talented and really good at these things, and I'll never catch up. They're way more friendly and likable than I am. I'll never be able to do what they do. But because Jesus gives us our abilities based on what he knows of us, all we have to do is start with where we're at. That's it. We don't have to wish we were better or smarter or more prepared. If all you know about the Bible is 2 things, you start with those 2 things. And here's the promise Jesus gives us in this passage, that if we're faithful with a little, he will give us more. If we're faithful with what we have, he will give us more. And that doesn't just mean to be more talented, smarter, a little bit better, tougher. That means that he'll give us more of an experience of who he is. That we'll be closer to Jesus. That we'll be able to see what Jesus is up to. That we get to be a part of what he's doing. This is really important. This is really important. I think sometimes we do church the way that we watch football. I had a professor in college who would say, church is a lot like the game of football. In the game of football, you got 22 guys on the field who don't need any exercise. And then you got 70,000 people in the stands, sitting and eating, who probably could use a break, watching those guys sweat and run. We do this in the church. Many of us who have more to offer than we think are happy to let the people who are flashier or who we think are more impressive or who we think have more to offer do the work. We say, I only got 1 little bag of gold. I don't want to lose it. I'll just wait for Jesus to come back. Here's the hard truth. That little bag of gold, that little gift that you're afraid to use, it doesn't belong to you. It belongs to God. He's Lord of however little you may think you have to offer. Do you know that he's Lord of that? That those talents you have belong to him? And because of the type of God he is, that means they belong to others. Because that's who God is. He wants us to give our lives away to others. This is hard, but I think it's also really hopeful. None of us have a good enough excuse to not be a part of what God is doing. Some of us have written ourselves off, that we don't have enough to offer. But this story teaches us that not only do you have something to offer, but that God wants you to use it, and God wants to totally blow your mind with what he can do with it and show you even more. Now, I don't want to make this a everyone work harder sermon. It'd be really easy to go that way. Many of us have stewarded some gifts really well. Some of us have really strong gifts we've yet to apply to some sort of ministry, to serving others. We're very good at certain things we do at work, but do we use them to serve other people? Some of us have something that excites us. Maybe the gift you have is you can see a need, and then you go, I don't really know how I can help with the need. You kind of scratch in your head like, I can see that God wants to do something here, but what can I do? Maybe that's the gift. You see what God wants to do. That's enough to get started. Go learn what else do you need to do. And God's with you. God trusts you. Isn't that scary? That God trusts us? I wish that he would just say, hold on to this real tight, I'll come back and do something with it. But he gives it to us and trusts us to be a part of it. He doesn't want us to dig a hole and bury it in the ground. And I say this to those of you, to kids and young people in the room. You have so much time in front of you to grow your gifts. I can't tell you how many adults I know, myself included, who wish we'd leaned into a gift harder when we were younger. We kind of let it go. We thought it didn't matter. You know, we always wanted to do that, but we didn't. It's not too late for any of us, but for those of you in the room, you teens and you kids, you have a lot of time to grow and to learn. Be patient with yourself. Figure out those things that bring you joy, you're wired up to do, that you're good at, and just keep doing them. And pray that God will help you find a way to do them for Jesus. That goes for all of us. If you're not in a box in the ground, you've still got time and you've still got talents. I do not agree with the idea that you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Because we believe in the power of the Holy Spirit. He's the one who's going to transform us. He's the one who's going to multiply these gifts. Even if you think you have so little to offer, God can do so much with it. That means you're not off the hook. It means none of us are off the hook. None of us can just say that work, that belongs to someone else. I'm not going to be a part of it. Really quickly, to ease some of the anxiety for those of you that are reading ahead, reading this whole passage, there's some heavy stuff in here. There's some heavy stuff in here at the end, and we won't get into all of it. But I will just say this statement that the servant makes, saying, I knew you were a harsh master. By the time the servant says that, we know he's wrong. The master's been nothing but generous. Rather than saying, oh, give me those 10 bags, give me those 4 bags, he gives them back to them and says, keep up the good work. So when the servant says, I knew you were a hard man, I was afraid, he's wrong to be afraid. This is a God who trusts him. A God who's going to be quite generous, a God who wants to include him. So if this passage gives you some level of anxiety of, oh, I don't want to mess this up, I don't want to get thrown out to the place with the weeping and gnashing of teeth. The servant didn't know who his master was. His master is not cruel and harsh. His master is so generous, he invites us into what he's doing. Jesus loves us so much, he wants to use us. And he wants us to enjoy the ways we get to serve. He doesn't say, oh, give me back all of those gifts. He lets us enjoy them a little bit. He lets us be a part of it. And he gives us even more responsibility. And it says he invites us to share in his happiness. This is a beautiful story about a God who is generous and includes us. Jesus loves you and wants to use you, wants you to be a part of what he's doing, wants to grow your gifts even more, wants you to enjoy the way you are being a part of what he's doing even more. And all he asks is for us to lay our lives down and to serve him. That's all he asks of us. We're gonna end with prayer. But I want to make this concrete for each of us. I want you to, if you can, close your eyes, stare off at the wall, whatever you need to do to just get some space right here. What gift has God given to you? What gift has he brought into your life? Now, for some of us, we want to say, oh, I don't have one. I don't buy that. I don't buy that. I know how much it hurts to feel like you don't have anything to offer. And that's a real pain, and Jesus sees that too. Jesus knows that hurts. But he also knows that he's given you something. Oh, make it specific. Make it specific. Think of one specific way that you can use the gifts God has given you. Maybe for some of you, it's this week with Thanksgiving coming. There's a way to use your gift in your homes and with your family. Maybe it's in the weeks ahead with Christmas coming. There's a way to use your gifts to serve others. Maybe you've been feeling a stirring since this series started to be a part of some of the ministry here at Centerpoint. Whatever it is. Maybe it's something as simple as I'm going to start drawing again. I'm going to start playing piano again. I'm going to try a brand new thing. I'm going to start baking bread. Whatever it is, as you close your eyes for us to pray, keep that in your mind. Jesus, we come to you this morning, thankful that you have given us these gifts. Jesus, we ask you to remind us every day that they belong to you and that you want us to use them for your purposes. God, would you help us to see the ways we can use our gifts? For those of us who it's hard to think of ourselves as someone who has something to offer, would you remind us that you have placed blessings and gifts and strengths and abilities in us? For those of us who feel like there's some good reason we can't be a part of what you're doing, maybe we think we're too young. Maybe we think we're too old, or we're too busy. Maybe we think it's too late to use this gift, or we're too confused. We don't know how you could use it, where it would fit. God, would you help us to see what you want to do? And God, we commit to you this morning to take another step, just one step toward participating in and using that gift more. Trusting that there'll be another step after that you'll keep inviting us deeper. God, would you be with us this week? Reveal to us as we go through this week the different gifts that we have. As we prepare for celebrating Thanksgiving this Thursday, would you help us? Would you help us to give thanks for the gifts you've placed in our lives? Use that time to remind us of what you've given to us. Lord, as we go from this place, help us to trust you and help us to see the places you're inviting us to use our gifts, the ways that we get an opportunity to serve you. Because we want you to be Lord of our lives. We want you to be Lord of our gifts as well. Pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Church, if you're able, I invite you to your feet as you're left with a blessing. Pray you have safe travels, you have a delightful Thanksgiving. For those of you who this time of year is lonely, I pray the Holy Spirit helps you to feel his presence. Would you receive this blessing? May you know the God who gives you gifts, the God who didn't leave any of you off of the list of people to give gifts. May you be reminded that they belong to God and that he wants you to use them for an amazing purpose. And as you go this week, may the God of peace sanctify you through and through as you are sent back into God's good world. Hug somebody. Tell them you love them. Go in peace.